Daniella Atkinson is a reporter and internet personality known for her viral street interviews. She bridges the gap between journalism and digital storytelling and has interviewed celebrities, covered major sporting events, and collaborated with brands worldwide. Daniella, welcome to ThinkSpace.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. I am so pumped that you are here. We got to meet for your love of sugar.
Yes, I have a very big sweet tooth.
So why don't we start with what is your, like, if you had to get a sweet treat, let's say you had a hard day and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna get myself a sweet treat. What is your sweet treat?
Ice cream normally, that is kind of my go-to, especially in Vancouver. It would be like Earnest or Rain or Shine. But I love a good like DQ Blizzard, honestly.
Classic.
I also have a massive sweet tooth for chocolate. So honestly, at any point, like a chocolate bar is my perfect go-to.
And you're from London. So is there like a London chocolate bar you really love?
Yes. Galaxy is like one of my favorite chocolate brands. Like my first ever email had Galaxy in it because I was just so obsessed. And even still to this day, I was like actually messaging with my cousins this morning and she was like, what do you want me to bring over for you? And I was like, Galaxy chocolate, please.
Galaxy, thank you.
Yeah.
That's so funny. You know, my favorite artist when I was a kid was Coolio. I don't know if you know who Coolio is, like Gangster's Paradise. Just Google it afterwards.
Yeah,
it's a great song. That was my email. And I was like, why are we like this?
We honestly all have that. Same thing with like passwords. It's like all of us have had the same password since we were like 12.
Forever.
And we keep it for everything. I'm like, I could get hacked so easily.
Oh my God, I know. No, my other business partner, Mike, would kill me. So I actually have gotten better since he's been in my life because he's like, that is not okay. But okay, so I wanted to have you on because there's a huge conversation. There has always been a huge conversation in Vancouver of like, this is a no fun city and people are so to themselves. And I was just like, this girl has stood on the corner and talked to so many of us.
So many.
So tell me a little bit about what have you learned about Vancouverites since doing your streeters?
You know, I think like Vancouverites aren't as closed off as people assume, but also I guess that would then go down to like who is actually a Vancouverite and who is just someone like living in Vancouver. Myself included, I feel like Vancouver is just full of immigrants, which is absolutely incredible. And they are definitely the ones that are a lot more receptive to me talking to them on the streets. I feel like I've noticed I can like tell a Vancouverite, like a true born and raised Vancouverite from like a mile away. Just they're usually head down, don't really want to like look up and smile. If I try to stop them, it's a little bit of like a lot more pushback. And I don't know exactly why that is, but I do find that, yeah, the traditional Vancouverites, quote unquote, are a little bit more closed off than maybe the ones that have come here and like are starting their life here now. But I think that kind of makes for such a fun, diverse city. And I'm hoping that the immigrants and those of us that are here trying to, you know, change that narrative can help kind of influence the original Vancouverites and show them what an amazing city this is. I get that it can be a novelty once you've like lived here for so long in your whole life, but it truly is such an incredible place. So it's, I think, more about like trying to bring that back out of people and like remind them of the incredible place that they live.
Yeah, like, why do you love it here? I always used to say this to people. I was like, it took me a long time to love Vancouver. And I'm like, I have friends from everywhere. And even one of my girlfriends, I'm just thinking about this right now, she's from Saskatchewan. And she's like, I love it in Vancouver and I'm never going to leave it. I'm like, I'm so jealous of you because you have fallen in love with this place in a way where I just hadn't at the time. So when you think about why you love Vancouver, like, why do you love Vancouver?
I think I've been so lucky to live and travel all over the world. And Vancouver has such a unique just ecosystem in general. I mean, the fact that we can go and lie on the beach and then drive for less than an hour and get up to a mountain and go skiing, and we can go golfing and we can go swimming in the ocean and we can do all of these incredible things and then come into the city and go to some of the best restaurants in the world, the best cocktail bars. There's just so much here that is so unique. And I think that that's one of the things that I fell in love with the most. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else
I love that, right? It's like, from what you're saying is what I'm hearing is that you get to have a very well-rounded life and well-rounded interests here.
Definitely. And there's so much to do in the city, despite what people may think. You know, you just gotta go out and find it. but it's also such a great size of a city. Like Toronto for me is a little bit too big, a little bit too like spread out. Whereas in Vancouver, you really can get like from one end to the other in, under half an hour of walking, which makes everything very convenient as well.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Okay, so let's talk about some of your viral pieces. One of your most viral pieces was of this guy. I don't remember it word for word. I remember what he was wearing, but like he's wearing like this beige jacket or beige sweater, I believe, and he's talking about how his wife doesn't have to work, and it's like one of your most viral like piece of content.
Yes.
Why do you think that one did so well?
I think it was kind of a good combination. So most of my viral videos, I kind of notice have a good conversation. The person that I'm interviewing is quote unquote attractive or like conventionally attractive. The lighting is nice. What they say is a little bit clickbaity or, something that kind of has a shock factor and starts a conversation in the comments. And I think that video just definitely had all of that. That was one of like my earlier viral videos, definitely at the time, and something that maybe was a little bit different to what I now produce, question-wise, and kind of the things that I go out and talk about. But it was a very, very interesting one to see kind of the responses to that. But anything that really starts a conversation. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because I feel like, so for anybody who doesn't know, he was, Daniella was asking him like,
how much? Yeah, it was like, how much does a woman have to make to be your wife?
Yes.
And he said nothing.
Yes. But the way he said nothing, it was just so nonchalant. Like it was nothing to him. Like he truly meant it. And it was so ingrained in him. And I think that was something that I think sparked conversation.
Yeah.
And then, whenever I look at your page, I feel like the ones that do the best are those ones where it's like forces people to think like, well, what would that be like in my life? And that's why I like love the new series that you're doing right now, because even if we just think about Vancouver in its own, the other thing people say about here is it's so hard to date. And dating right now is uniquely very challenging, like post-COVID. So please tell me, how did you come up with this idea to start going on the street and essentially like, hello, here's this person,
Honestly, it fully started as a passion project of just being like, I have so many hot single friends.
Yeah.
Why are all my hot friends single?
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's got to be kind of a different way that people can meet. The dating apps aren't working for everybody. It's near impossible to get across like somebody's personality. And what I've learned is that like someone can look one way but be completely different, or someone can come across on social media one way and in person they're like this whole other light. And it kind of just got me thinking that like someone's got to go out there and showcase these personalities a little bit more, and maybe how we can do that. So it started as like a 14-day series where the first 14 were all friends of mine that were single. And I was like, let's go and just, are you comfortable doing this? And most of them were like, well, it's no different than going on a dating app and, talking about myself. It's just a different app. So let's try it. And it just like the response and the demand was insane. It's
so
like
what
not
happened?
something
Like
I've
how
seen.
did people respond?
It was just so many people being like, this is incredible. I didn't even know that all of like these single people were here. And like, why hasn't someone, I guess, come out to do this before? And obviously I'm not unique in going out on the streets and asking people, are they single? This is things that like are done all over the world, in New York especially, down in LA, in London. But Vancouver, I'm kind of one of the only people or one of the originals that has gone out and like are talking to people on the streets and kind of sparking these conversations, creating conversation in a city that may seem like it's near impossible to just create and spark up a conversation with a stranger. But the response was just insane of so many people like realizing that it's needed. And now I've been asked to do it like all across Canada. And I'm like, okay, if I can eventually, then maybe I will. But at least for here, it's just been a really, really fun, different way to connect with the community on something that seems, I guess, a little bit more universal than talking to people about their jobs and how much they make. This is something that like feels a little bit closer to people's heart. And so the response is, it's been amazing.
Yeah, because I would say it's more intimate. Because even if, even if you put yourself on a dating app, right? It's almost like you're secluded to the other people who are putting themselves on that dating app.
Exactly.
Versus like, how many creatives, I know you've heard this, where they'll be like, oh, I'll get on TikTok and I'll be like so open and raw. And then I'll get on Instagram and I just freeze up.
Yes.
So that's why I thought this was so interesting, because Instagram is our new Facebook, right? And it's like where everybody is online in such a different way. And I feel like people are maybe a little bit more afraid to be so raw on Instagram, and then to put their desires out there, like, hey, I desire love.
Honestly,
I was like, that is so brave.
It's so brave. And every single person that has come on to do this with me, I think I've done like 50 now total. So there are more kind of being posted soon. These guys are like the most confident, brave, incredible people. The fact that they're even putting themselves out there already makes them a 10 out of 10 in my books.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people that, I have approached, and friends of mine that are like, no, I could never do that. And I'm like, and that's A-okay, but it's so amazing to see the confidence that these people are having. These are people that are just like reaching out to me, DMing me, signing up on like the form on my bio, and just putting themselves out there and being like 1000%. And then it ends up that like we go out and shoot, and I have like 15 singles from Vancouver, all just chilling, chatting in between interviews, getting to know each other. And I'm like, this is exactly the community that I wanted to create here. And honestly, this has been like the first time that I've seen it really, really blow up the way that it has.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who's like, she's like, yeah, that girl who like goes on the street and asks people questions. My friend sent me one of the videos and was like, you should date this guy. And she's like, I was like, I know her.
Oh, I love it. Honestly, that has been the other amazing thing, is like people reaching out that, I haven't spoken to in a while, or who, are just like new friends, and being like, this is amazing. Or my friend was on it and found, someone, and seeing now the responses of people that are going out on dates that got hundreds of messages from people, especially the men.
Oh, tell me more.
Honestly, it's like one of those things where the men are just so happy to finally have women reaching out to them. And this is like the only way that they've really experienced that, because obviously in society, it kind of does fall to the men to make that first move in like a heterosexual relationship. And it's really, really cool to see like how giddy these men are getting, that women are sliding into their DMs and like commenting, being like, he's so cute. Like, this is, stuff that as women, we probably get a lot more than men. So it's kind of like nice validation for them as well.
They deserve it.
Exactly. It's like a pat on the back for going out and being that confident to put yourself out there to do this interview with me. And I'm really, really happy to see that the responses have been so good.
Yeah. My friend, he always says, he's like, your experience on a dating app is 10 million times different than mine.
Oh my gosh,
and I looked at his app one time and I was like, it is so different. Like I'm not saying this in like a cocky way, but there's no way that like I open my app and I don't have 50 plus people who have liked me. He may not even have 4. Yeah, and he's a good looking guy.
Exactly. And it's nothing to do with anything other than, in society, men make the first move. So this is, it's very, very cool. And now I'm like pat on the back for all the women that are sliding into these DMs
I know,
as well.
I was thinking that too. Like confidence. I love it.
Honestly.
So do you know anybody who's gotten together?
No one like officially together, but I did hear from one of the guys. He said that he's been like, they're not dating officially, but he's been seeing her consistently. And I'm like, that's great. And a lot of these people have gone out on at least one date. So I hope to hear more soon.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so going back to you a little bit. We were laughing off camera a little bit, like how journalists never like talking about themselves, right? And I mean, I love being in the interviewer seat as well.
Yes.
But what was your life like as a young person? Like, where did you find inspiration, and what made you curious about humans? Because I feel like that's the vibe I get from you, is like you are just a curious gal.
Yes, very. And honestly, like all of that can go down to my parents and my upbringing. I grew up in a British Asian military household. We moved around very, very often. So my friend groups changed all the time. We were always kind of like sent out to travel with my parents. They did not care about pulling us out of school and taking us on experiences and going places that my dad was stationed and getting to kind of go out and just see the real world. And that honestly sparked all of my curiosity for humans and for that interaction and connection, having to move so often. And it was always like in the summer right before school started. So I'd be showing up to a new city, to a new province, a new country, knowing nobody. And, school still doesn't start for like another couple months now. So it's kind of up to me and my brother to go out and find people or find things to do. We've always been very, very independent. Now it's just me and him in North America. The rest of our family are all scattered around the world, parents included, who are stationed now in Asia. So it's kind of like we were forced to be curious. We were forced to make connections for ourselves. And that started from such a young age that it's just second nature to me now. And it's not something that I ever really think about as a skill.
It's just like you're part of your
It's just part of me.
Yeah. Was it, when you would move that much, what was going through your mind like a little person?
My poor parents. There was definitely times where like I did tell them, I hate you and I can't believe you're making us move again, and I've just met friends. And I was bullied all throughout school as well. So it was kind of one of those things that like once I finally found some friends and had maybe gotten through the bullies and kind of figured that out and found my place in a school, we'd up and move again. And it's like, now I got to do it again. Now I'm the new kid again. That comes with its own kind of territory and issues. So just kind of always having to go through that like rejection therapy, I guess, every single time that I moved has just been what has, I guess, made me a much stronger person, I think.
Yeah, because I could imagine that. Like, you're also such a pretty girl. Like, going to new places, you're noticeable, right? And that's its own little thing where sometimes you can like, okay, I'll just be in a little background, and other times you can't, right?
Definitely.
So what were some of the skills or the tools that you used to start to feel okay with all of those moves?
Yeah, honestly, like I don't know like how else to like go into this, but I was an overweight, not very attractive person growing up. It wasn't something that until like my 4th year of university that I really started to like have some confidence in myself, lost over 50 pounds, like decided to actually start looking after myself and realizing
I love the way you put that though, looking after myself, because that's what it is. It's like, do I care for my body? Do I care for myself?
Exactly. And before that, I was just like so unsure of everything and honestly was just being ripped apart left, right, and center every time that I moved, that I just couldn't figure out who I was and what I wanted to do. And how I could be a better person for myself. Wait, now I forget what your question was.
What you were talking about was kind of sounds like your glow up journey or like your self-confidence journey.
Yeah.
And you got to this place where you started to take care of yourself. You were losing weight. And it sounds like you were starting to get on your own side.
Yes, definitely. And I guess I just realized that like no one else is going to have my back, that I do have to have my own back. And that's been something that like now I've carried through for the 4 years of running my own business. And that's, the thing that wakes me up every morning, that like you have to do this for you, for yourself. I have a lot to prove to, myself and to a lot of people in my life. And that's my motivation to keep going.
Yeah. Well, losing like that much weight is no small feat. I also went through a huge weight loss journey. And what it is like, I feel like it's such a journey with your self-image.
Definitely.
Where it's like, who am I? Or how do I think about myself? And like, how am I okay with what other people think about me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that changes so much. And then you kind of see both sides. If you've gone through that experience as well, you've seen the way that people treat you when you maybe don't look as conventionally as attractive as they want. And then I've seen the way that people treat me now. And the stark difference is like astonishing. Even getting messages from people that were bullying me in high school and middle school, that they're like, oh, I see that you're doing all this, and like sliding into my DMs. And I'm like, you actually were like a big pain point in my life. And now you're coming in as if like nothing mattered. What? Because I look different, because I'm more successful than I was when I was a kid. Like, when I was a kid. Like when I grew up. Like, sorry, I wasn't everything that you wanted in middle school, but it's like, they always come back.
How does it feel getting those messages?
Secretly, it feels a little like validating to be like, okay, good. At least like what I'm doing is working. But at the same time, it makes me just like sad for them to be like, if that's really how you treated people growing up and you still, it's not like they're coming to me to be like, we're actually really sorry for what we did to you. It's coming because they want something from me. They want something out of me now. So it feels nice to be able to say no. Leave them on red.
I'm on a different place of power.
Exactly.
I get it. I've gone so many people who will message me. I actually just got somebody message me the other day, but they did say sorry. And it was one of those things, I think the older that you get, and the more of these, because you're putting yourself out there, right?
Yes.
You're willing to be seen. And when you're willing to be seen, people are going to see themselves through you. And I always say, like, the people who are the closest to you are the ones who are going to have the hardest time with your development and your success because you started at a similar place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's obviously something that I've been through many times as well, and kind of seeing those changes in my relationships and friendships just with everything that comes with this industry. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in like a small group of people that actually are there to support you, that you can give also 100% of your energy back to, and just nurturing those relationships, because I'm very, very independent, probably too independent, but you know, it's me, myself, and I here. I've got no other family. I've got no one else that I can rely on for the business as well. And so I'm happy and comfortable with that. So anyone that I'm bringing into my life now really, really has to add to it. And trust me, I will equally give all of that energy back.
Yeah, no, I believe that with my whole heart. How did you, like, because, okay, to get to that place, you know, it's me, myself, and I'm the only one that I can rely on. There can always be two tones to that statement. Tone number one could be very empowered, and tone number two can feel almost like scared, sad, a little bit victim-y. I hear empowerment. So how did you get to a place where you're like, okay, this is how I'm moving in the world, and I feel good about this?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of self-reflection. And you're right, there's definitely that side of like the victim. And I've played into that before and really, you know, taken the time to sit and wallow in, you know, the things that I feel like I've missed out on, or the things that I was never given that, you know, have put me in this position. But it's really, really about taking the time just for yourself to change that mindset and realize that despite all of that, this is where I am. And I know that I can continue. And I know that now I have a lot more tools than maybe a lot of people my age to be able to navigate the world, to be able to navigate through business as well, especially as a young woman in the city, as someone who is just by themselves, does not have a team, and being able to have enough confidence in myself and my own lived experiences to be able to bring that to the table and know that I could, you know, hold myself together in a room, because I've done the work myself.
And you have evidence, like, hey, I did this once, I can do this again, I can do it, like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Everything that I've gone through is just another tool, another thing that I'm like, okay, well, if I could deal with that, trust me, I can deal with you. I can deal with the next thing. Like, I will. I'll figure it out.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's talk about influencer life, because, well, actually, I'll ask you, like, do you feel like being an influencer in today's world, 2026, is different than being an influencer 4 years ago?
I would say so, yes. I think, and obviously, like, the term influencer has changed so many times in general as well. It's had positive connotations, negative, like the way that people kind of view it, especially in media. The market has become a lot more saturated, as it does daily, weekly, yearly, definitely. And then especially in Vancouver, I really was like the only person going out on the streets doing the interviews. Now there are, you know, dozens of people that go out in Vancouver and do it, which is amazing to see as well. So it's definitely something that has shifted over the years. But it's an industry that's kind of forever changing, and, you know, we'll never know where it's going to go.
It's constantly pivoting.
And the ups and downs are insane. The platforms, what people rely on, the way that companies kind of approach influencer marketing, what that can kind of look like. But that's why I'm very, very thankful to still have like my traditional journalism background and to still be so focused on that side of my work as well. Because with it forever changing, I know that I have a backup or something else that I'm equally as passionate about and wanting to work on as well.
Yeah. I have such an off like topic question that's percolating. But you know, all of the movies where, let's say, the woman is the main character, she's always in some type of journalism, whether she's a writer or whether she's in marketing. Why do you think that people find this role so fascinating?
I think it's something to do with like, and maybe it kind of goes all the way back to like Sex and the City, like Carrie Bradshaw and like what she did. You know, she was like a single woman in her 40s that had this like massive gossip column and like dating column, and she became this big thing. And that's kind of like, I guess, oh my gosh, what's the word? That's like not dramatized, but oh my gosh, when you're like looking at something and you're saying that it's like so amazing and it's glamorized. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that, I feel like industry and world is glamorized as being like the independent, like nonchalant researcher, interviewer, journalist that can just like go around and take the city by storm and like do their own thing.
Yeah.
It's something that I think, is definitely glamorized in media in general and through all of the movies. But I get why, especially as like a young woman, those are the people that I looked up to. I always loved like the entertainment reporters, all of the traveling sports reporters, all of like the YouTubers back in those days that were becoming content creators and influencers because they looked like they were just these strong ass independent women. And it's like, why wouldn't I want to try that? Why wouldn't I want to be that?
Yeah, I think it's inspiring, and there's a level. There's a fulfillment that is palpable. Yes. You know what I mean? And I think that palpability is what makes it so, I want a piece of that. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And I feel like everyone should try and have that like main character moment, even if it isn't showcased in media normally. But at the moment, like being a single woman in my 20s, living in my nice apartment by myself and my dog and living this, you know, seemingly lavish, great life. And I've truly love my job through and through. So that to me is like younger me would look up, and I know she'd be happy. I know she'd be proud.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so tell me a little bit of like, okay, when you started versus where you are now, obviously that's a big jump. So maybe we go started, middle to now. What did life look like back then? How did you start to build this business? Because I know that your business is so much bigger than just streeters, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it started with me being an on-air reporter, and the street interviews kind of came as like a side passion project for that. When I would finish all of my interviews for the day, I was like the morning reporter. So I was there at like 5, 6 a.m., hair and makeup, was doing interviews then from like 7 until 1. And then I had basically until like 3, 4 o'clock to kind of do whatever I wanted once I'd finished my prep for the next day of interviews. Going out on the streets was just kind of a way to stay creative, to get to know people in the city. And it really, really took off for that company. And then I started getting approached by other media companies in the city and realized that this is something that I could kind of do full time on my own and just be an independent reporter and get contracted out. And then that would give me the flexibility and freedom to kind of work on everything in my passions, which was like fashion, sports, food. You know, I was in financial marketing, journalism, which wasn't as fun to me. And although I love talking about money and investing, it's definitely not something that like I thought was the best.
That makes so much more sense why you do all the money stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Because some people, it's fascinating. Like, as a coach, one of the reasons why I love watching your content is because I just love seeing how people like resonate to their own story.
Yeah.
And some people have a really easy time talking about money. Some people, even like when there's ownership of like, I'm not going to tell you how much I make. Some people will say it in such a, and I'm sure there's so many that don't get edited and put out, but it's like where there's ownership of it versus other people. I feel like it's a sticky subject, right? A subject maybe they don't talk about a lot.
Definitely. It is taboo, and it is obviously intimidating to have someone just randomly come up to you and be like, how much do you make? Come on, tell me. Like, who are you to trust me? But that's why I'm like so thankful. So for anyone who says that Vancouver is not like an approachable city, I'm like, I literally go up to people on the street and ask if they're single and how much money they make, and these people tell me. So if you go up and say hi and give someone a compliment, trust me, they're going to be responsive.
Okay. So you were in financial journalism, and now you're like, okay, when you were like, hey, I could do this on my own and I could think about things that I love and enjoy. What was your exposure to entrepreneurship? Like, were you like, oh, I can do this? Or was there imposter syndrome? Or like, what was the vibe?
Yeah, so I feel like it wasn't, I grew up, like, I always knew I wanted to do this. I knew I wanted to be in media. I've been making, directing, producing, editing, putting out movies since I was like 10 years old, and my parents got me my first little camcorder. Like, I was that person that was corralling friends in middle school and high school to come and film and make these little movies with me. And that was just like my creative outlet, and that was my passion. So when the social media stuff started to take off and I started to see kind of what that meant and the numbers that came with that, I realized that like this was my only chance to take that jump. And I fully just left a salary position and went, I'm going to try and do this by myself and see kind of what comes of it. But honestly, the only reason I was able to do that is because I had enough belief in myself that I would be able to get through and, you know, the hard parts to be able to make it and kind of let things grow. But that's obviously forever changing. And there's great days and there's awful days. And I'm learning honestly every single second. But that's why I also continue to do everything by myself. Like I don't have a manager. I don't have an editor. I have a lovely videographer who comes out to do some of the street interviews with me. But other than that, I do everything myself because I like to learn, because I'd rather know now and make the mistakes now and figure it out. And then know that 10 years from now, when I'm in my 30s, that's when I can take the knowledge and everything that I've been able to build myself and be able to have further backing for what I know I can do.
Yeah. Then you can manage the work because you'll know the work.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's very, very important, I think, in this industry, as you guys all know as well, to know how to do everything. Even if you can hire out and get other people to do and, you know, take some of that weight off your plate, it's very, very beneficial to be the person in the room that does know everything from production to being in front of the camera and, you know, all the other things that come along with the creatives.
Because it's one of those things, if somebody quote unquote calls in sick, you can't be hooped.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
You've
exactly.
Gotta know.
And if you are the one in the know, like it will benefit you.
So when you were first starting to reach out to people then, so you're doing your streeters and now you're reaching out to people, and like, how did you start to make money?
Yeah, I've been really, really fortunate that I've always had incoming work. So I've always had brands and PR agencies reach me just through social media and reach out. And kind of that was my first take on being like, okay, so this is how you make money. It's brand deals for the most part, especially in Canada. You know, we don't have a creator fund. We don't get paid per views. If we did, I feel like I'd be a lot richer right now.
I wish for you, girl, because
right?
you deserve it.
Only reason I would want to be in the States. So, you know, that kind of thing. And that's what I realized. So it was building more relationships. And I realized that the more that you can build relationships with PR teams in the PR companies in the city, local business owners, and kind of starting that way. And then knowing that once I produce good work, which I know I would, and people kind of see that ROI, then I'm able to kind of go out to the bigger companies, to the ones that are maybe like more of a dream of me to work with, and be able to kind of showcase that to them and be like, well, this is what I was able to do locally. So, you know, imagine if I had a little bit of a budget, what could I do then?
What's a dream that you got to actualize? Like, what's a dream company you got to work with?
I feel like Air Canada was like one of my biggest ones that I mean, having flown with them obviously all my life, being in Canada and my dad being military and us always traveling around, that was like a massive one for me. I knew that I wanted to be able to travel for work. So to be able to work with a company that I genuinely love and admire and everything that they stand for, and the work that we were doing was for like an incredible organization called Fan Flight. So that to me was one of my biggest. Others would definitely be like signing with Major League Soccer and getting to work with the Whitecaps really closely. That opened so many doors into the sports reporting world that now I get to explore, having also the World Cup here. And it's just something that, like, as a kid, being able to run out on the pitch with teams and players and, you know, what that meant to my family and what we used to do, to now being the person that gets to go out and do the reporting and everything that I used to watch every single morning with my dad. That just like means so much to me.
Yeah. And you actually like sports.
I love, yes. Yeah. I mean, definitely when you grow up in Europe, it's like you can't not.
It's so different. Oh my God. And that makes so much more sense with the soccer.
Yes. Yeah. So that's something that's been like a lot more close to home. Like literally was that kid running out with Leeds United, Stoke, like as a kid holding the players and going. And that's, you know, it's just ingrained in my culture.
That's so cool. Okay. The military element. You know, we did this interview one time with this guy, and he grew up very, very wealthy in Beverly Hills and like was just in the entertainment world. And I remember asking him this question, and you're going to feel like this. I know this. I remember asking him like, oh, like, what did it feel like growing up in X? Like, I just don't want to say where he grew up. And he was just like, Sue, you can only ask me that question because you didn't grow up in it. But it's so true, right? Because the question somebody who was in that world would ask him would never be an outsider question.
Yeah.
But as an outsider, I'm very curious, like, what does it mean to be the kid of a military family?
It can come with like a lot of things and mean a lot, especially obviously like in a world that is so forever changing, and then there's so much like negative, there's so much negativity.
There's so much negativity.
And there's a lot that I can't personally speak on just because of my dad's position and what he's done. And so I feel like it's kind of one of those polarizing things of it shaped me of who I am. And I feel like in that sense, I'm so, so, so grateful. But at the same time, I've lost friendships and relationships time and time and time again because of this job. But there's a lot that I can't talk about, that I can't post about. I don't get to talk about my family and my parents as much as I'd like, maybe on my social media, videos and things that my parents send me that I'd love to post and share, that I just never would be able to, because it's not right for their position and role. But it's something that honestly, at the end of the day, I know has just shaped me for who I am. And it's something that I'm very, very thankful to be a part of. And, it brought me out here, and it's brought me to a country that I absolutely love, and to an industry that I love. So yeah, if anything, it's such a positive in my life, kind of coming from that world. But, it obviously came with its challenges.
Yeah, you sound grounded and rooted in what it's given you and like where you're at with it.
And I'm like so lucky as a military brat. Like I never had to live on base. I, moved around a lot, but not nearly as much as like a lot of military families that I know. I'm so thankful to, still have my dad. There's a lot of military brats that, have had very, very different experiences growing up in a family like that. And so everything that we've been able to do and the way that it's gone, like I'm beyond thankful.
Yeah. And his scope must just be like, are both of your parents in military?
No, my dad is. My mom has a military role now as a diplomat, but my dad is the military.
Okay. Yeah, like I feel like scope, like sometimes when you have parents who have such dynamic jobs, the way that you get to be raised and the things that you are exposed to are so different. And as a young person, sometimes it might feel like, oh my God, this is like, I know too much about the world.
Yes.
Versus other times, I think when you get a little bit older and you're able to hold it, you're just so thankful for what you know.
Definitely. And it's one of those things that's just like, it's again sparked my curiosity and everything about connecting with humans, because, we would like, my parents were very, very good about making sure that my brother and I were always aware of what was going on in the world. And not only because it's important to, but because of my dad's position and knowing what's going on. So that to me is like something that I haven't really experienced or seen from many other people. And I think especially Canadians in general. That's like obviously a whole other conversation of the life of an immigrant versus a Canadian and kind of what we've been just exposed to in general and our different outlooks on the world. But yeah, all things that I'm very, very thankful for either way.
Yeah. The life of an immigrant is so fascinating because it's okay. So one of my best friends, she lives in London right now. Yeah. And in London, there's a lot of conversations about immigrants right now. And for her, she's like, she lived in Canada for all of her life. And then she was just like, I never realized how much of an impact these conversations of immigrants have on immigrants. And then she's like, so many people think it's like, person of color, then immigrant. But it's this like, it's actually such a multi-layered experience. Like, what has your experience as an immigrant been like in Canada?
I think like, I look Canadian, I sound Canadian, I am now Canadian by passport, by citizenship. I took the test.
I passed.
Second in the family. So that to me, like, I've had a very, very, very different and a lot more of a positive experience of being an immigrant than many other immigrants have, just because of the way that I look and sound. So in that sense, it's like, it's hard to, I guess, touch on that and talk about it, other than being put in situations where people don't realize I'm an immigrant and then they speak their truth of what they believe. And I was at the rugby sevens, and this couple behind me, these like guys from America, yelling out like, send them home, or like, they don't deserve here, or like, oh my God, like just shit talking immigrants. And I'm sitting in front of them just being like, and if I turned around right now and told them, like, do you want to ship me back to my country? I know what they would say. And I know that they'd be like, oh, no, what do you mean? And it's like, things like that, I feel like almost a fly on the wall in a lot of situations, because people don't realize where I come from.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I feel like I guess have more of a power to it. But it's, you know, then also up to me to be able to go out and talk to the other immigrants that don't get that same treatment that I do, and kind of reassure them on what they're doing and everything that they stand for as well. So it's a very different experience, obviously, because I don't at all look like an immigrant.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I think that, you know, as a Vancouverite, when I was younger, I don't know, like there's this like perception I feel like we have where it's like, oh, you're the best, you're best at everything. And then, you know, you have this like us versus them energy. And then you learn more and you're exposed to more and you become more conscious and you're just like, why the hell did I think like that?
Yeah.
Right. And also when you travel and you talk to more people and there's a willingness to connect, it's like we are all just human beings at the end of the day. And it's just so crazy, this energy of division, but we do not need to double tap on that because that is another podcast.
I know that's a whole other, a whole other thing. But you know, there's some exciting with the World Cup coming. I'm very, very excited to have some eyes on Vancouver.
Yes,
some different cultures here, some different perspectives, and I'm really, really excited to see the city come to life in that aspect.
I'm like, who wants to rent out my apartment?
Right. There's that too. I mean, we could then talk about how expensive it is to live here, but that's a whole other conversation.
Okay, I want to know from you. There's a lot of conversation. So as a coach, there's a lot of conversations in the coach world where people will talk about the element of being seen, right? And so when people are trying to put themselves out there, they're trying to be on social, it always comes back to this, oh, like you have a block of being seen, and which may and may not be true, but from your perspective, putting yourself out there, like from an energy vibe of like, okay, they're seeing me, they're hearing me, they're perceiving me, they're making their own judgments of me. How do you manage all that energy?
You know, it changes and it comes with waves. I feel like I've definitely had situations where, you know, being seen is very scary and it's not been fun. And, you know, you're kind of put on this pedestal by some people, you're ripped down by others because of the position that you're in. And I feel like there's constantly outside noise, which obviously also as a young woman who isn't very confident or is still trying to find that confidence, it can be really, really like demoralizing, and something that I'm constantly navigating. But in general, it's kind of one of those things where now, like the way that I try and use my platform is to have others be seen, to use my platform as a base for other people that don't normally have a voice to give them that voice. Because I'm lucky that I do have a voice in this world. I do have a voice as a white woman and as somebody here in Vancouver that has a platform, but there's a lot of people that don't. So being able to kind of now give them that platform and that voice has been probably the best way for me to be able to navigate what it means to have this and kind of like the power, I guess, that I feel like I have in that space.
When did you learn you had that power?
I honestly don't. It might have been like the first few times that I was really like approached on the street by people that had seen my videos and realizing that, like, you know, these numbers that we focus so much on in social media actually aren't numbers. Like they're
real
people.
Humans.
They're real humans. Yeah. And then when you get to go out and meet those humans and they're coming up to you, it's like a whole other experience of just realizing actually what that means. And, you know, if a video hits 6 million views, I can look at that number and at some points like be disappointed and like, oh, why did this happen and this not happen? But then it's like, I couldn't even picture 6 million people. And I can't believe now, like I've been seen by that many people, that I have been perceived by that many people. And, you know, there's obviously a million positives and negatives that come with that. But yeah, it's a funny realization that I try not to think about so much all the time because it's like scary.
Big. Yeah. It's big. Yeah. When you... Like, how have you, because I ask this because so many of the people who listen to this podcast are people who are challenging themselves and they're putting themselves out there, right? When you, and I feel like they can look at someone like you're consistent, you're always putting yourself out there, regardless of what is coming up for you. Daniella, the human being. So I guess, how do you actually nourish yourself and take yourself through those harder times?
It's a lot of like self-care, protecting my peace. So that goes with like the energy that I put out, the friendships and the relationships that I keep in my life and that I unfortunately say goodbye to, things that kind of serve me versus don't. I think I'm far too independent in a lot of ways. And that just, again, goes through my upbringing. But I feel so much more secure in myself and have such a better base as just like me, myself, and I, that honestly, unless something's going to add and benefit my life, it's not something that like I have the capacity to put my energy into. And as selfish as obviously that can sound, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to knowing that like sometimes when the world feels like it's fully on our shoulders, which especially last year, like it really felt like it was, it's very, very important to look after yourself first. And there's nothing selfish about focusing on you and putting you first and everything that you want and what matters to you and kind of just disregarding other people. Like there's really nothing wrong with that. And I think that's something that took a little bit of a while like to learn. And I had to go through a lot in order to learn that. But now it's like I have so much more confidence in myself and I'm so much more at peace with just me that, you know, everything else is a little bit more of a breeze now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It sounds like you built up your inner base first.
Yes.
So that you could decide even if you got a negative comment, you can decide, is this, what I'm hearing is like, is this something that I can take constructively or is this something I don't even need to listen to?
Exactly. And like, especially on like TikTok versus Instagram, I will engage with my Instagram comments as much as I, can physically. But when it comes to TikTok, like people on there aren't very nice. And so I don't even give it the time of day to respond to comments because I know that if I go through that hole of like looking at them and diving into the negatives and listening to people pick me apart, it's like that's not going to benefit me at all. And I have a choice to just not read it.
Did you have to learn that or do you feel like you started there?
No, I definitely had to learn that. Like, and people will come up to you on the streets and sometimes say the same things. And it's like, that's kind of something that
What happened
scary.
In real life?
Oh, I've definitely had people kind of like yell at me from cars, certain words or things or comments on who I am or see me in person and it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm walking my dog. So yeah, okay, I don't look the same that I do on social media. I'm like not prepared to be talking to people and people will call you out on that and it's like, okay, thank you so much. But like, I'm just going to disregard that comment. You're clearly going through something in your own life that has nothing to do with me.
Like to me, well, one part of me is proud of them that they don't just have Twitter fingers,
right?
But then the other part of me is just like, I will never, it's so true, like hurt people, healed people, heal people. Of course you do not look the same at 11 p.m. when I have no makeup on and I'm taking my dog out for a pee. Like, it's just crazy to me though, but you do really realize like that right there is, am I getting my self-worth from inside?
Yes.
Or am I taking it from other people?
Exactly. And like you cannot rely on your self-worth and your confidence from anybody else at all. It really, really has to come from within. And that is something that I truly try and work on every single day. As someone who has struggled with that so much in the past, it's definitely something that has changed my entire perspective and outlook on life, which is in like a very, very positive way.
What's another lesson that you've learned through this business journey that has, I want to say, like really impacted who you are, really shaped the way that you move in the world?
Yeah, I feel like not everything is as serious as it seems. And I think that that's something that in social media, like when you think about how once you put something out there, it's forever out there and people try and scare you with that. But the other part of it that I've kind of learned throughout this business is like, yeah, but people's attention spans are also 3 seconds and they're going to forget about it tomorrow. And even if that's something that's going to continue to weigh on me, I'm making that choice to have it weigh on me. And I don't need to because it's not that deep. It's not that serious. I'm literally out here making social media videos. And yes, there are incredible positives to that. And I feel like I am trying to make change and do good in the world and use my platform in a way that, helps people. But at the same time, it's entertainment and it's a job and it's something that I'm personally passionate about, and it's really, really not that serious. So I think if anything, it's kind of taught me that like life doesn't have to be as serious. The things that maybe used to bug me or get me down, they really don't have to anymore. And just realizing that like everyone's living their own life and they're really not as focused on you as you think. Obviously you're focused on you and that's important. You should be. But no one else is as pressed about everything that you're doing and posting and what you say as you think that they are.
Yeah. And a key thing that you said in there is it's a job, because it sounds like there has become this separation for you where it's like, okay, this is what I do versus this is who I am.
Yes, definitely. And I think like so many people that have met me and even doing like the singles interviews recently, I've had so many people be like, wow, you're like so different in person. And it's just kind of like, is that a good thing, a bad thing? Like, I don't know.
See, I think you're so consistent. I feel like the girl I see online is the girl I know in real life.
I'm like, honestly, I'm just as, maybe people just don't think that I'm, can't be like that bubbly in person, but like I genuinely have such a zest and love of life and everything that I do, and like I know that can come across maybe as fake on social media, or people think like she says that everyone's job's cool. I think whatever anyone decides to do with their life is cool. Like why shouldn't it be?
Yeah.
So it's like that's
well, you're showing interest in other people. It's like as you say that, I have flashes. I have this flash of this girl that you interviewed, and I think she was like a film stylist or something like that, and but she looked so fucking cool, and it was like near Analog Coffee, and I was just like, oh, like, you know, she's talking about how
she's a stunt
double.
I remember she's wearing this like yellow tracksuit. Yeah, that was a couple years ago. That was so cool. One of the coolest people that I met.
Oh my God. And I just like, that was so cool. And I was like, because I've talked to some people, but I love stunt people, or some people think film is feast and famine. And I'm like, you know, it depends where you're at in film and how you do film. And so I think it is cool to learn about people.
Definitely. And it's so funny. It's like, you're actually just reminding me that these people like really stick in my life. The amount of people that will come up and be like, you did an interview 2 years ago with my boyfriend and he did this, and I'm like, I can tell you exactly what job they have. I can tell you probably what they were wearing. Like, and I've done hundreds of these interviews, but like I truly love every single one. And it's been such a pleasure to go out and meet so many people of like so many different walks of life. And they all stay in my brain. Like I hope everyone that I've ever interviewed knows that like I still think of you.
Aww. Is there somebody that you've interviewed that was like memorable for a reason, like that, or just stuck with you?
I'm trying to think. Like I've been so fortunate to do like bigger, you know, celebrity interviews and athlete interviews and people that I've like truly looked up to. Shay Mitchell being one of them, and she's, you know, a Vancouverite in that sense, and like getting to kind of make that connection and be able to have the opportunity to chat to her. But honestly, like the ones that stick in my mind are really like the everyday people, the ones that just have such a cool like style or way of speaking, or honestly like I admire the fact that I can go up to them and the way that they just hold themselves so naturally on camera and can have these incredibly composed answers. And I'm kind of sitting there in awe being like, and you weren't even prepared for this. Like I grabbed you on your lunch break. Like that to me is just like, those are the ones that stick, like are kind of the everyday people that I speak to here in Vancouver.
Yeah. I love that for you. Is there anything that you are looking forward to in the next year that you want to tell people about?
I'm trying to think. I feel like there's a lot coming up with the World Cup here. So you can expect a lot of sports reporting on a more traditional journalism side, which I'm very, very excited for. And my page will kind of turn into a little bit more of the behind the scenes of that and what it looks like. I've got some trips coming up as well that I'm excited to go and explore and kind of focus on a little bit more. But the singles series is definitely, it's taking a life of its own right now. I've got some singles events coming up in the city that I'll be hosting as well, which will hopefully give me the chance to actually meet a lot more people here and kind of have them have the opportunity to come and meet and chat to me as well. So a lot in the works that I'm just super, super excited to like keep going and pushing forward and keep creating like this community that we have here in Vancouver. And with all eyes on Vancouver soon with the World Cup, I'm excited to help showcase that.
I'm so excited for that. Even when Taylor Swift was here, I was like, there was this I live you live downtown too.
Yes,
And it's
yeah.
it was so funny because I felt like Vancouverites were like, all right, I'm not coming downtown. It's going to be crazy.
Exactly.
And so it ended up being so calm, but then you just see a sea of blonde.
Yeah.
And you're like, and cowboy boots. And you're
Yes.
like, I so fucking love this. This is dope.
Honestly, and like
Yeah.
we're just going to see that tenfold. Like all the
Yeah.
Vancouverites are probably going to leave, which I understand. You know, people want to rent out their apartments
Yeah.
and be like, I'd rather $2,000 a night and
Yeah.
I can go. But we're going to see like all of these incredible people here that are going to rediscover the beauty of Vancouver, and especially in the height of summer, what it's going to look like. I think it's just going to be absolutely incredible and maybe refreshing. If you're a Vancouverite and you're thinking that you want to like leave during the World
stick
Cup,
around.
stick around and
Yeah.
see it from other people's perspectives. See what people fall in love with in this city. And maybe it will kind of like reignite that for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Last thing is that on that note, one of my girlfriends, she lives in Edmonton, and she would always come and visit, and she'd be like, oh, the mountains, the trees, and whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. And then one of my best friends moved to Edmonton, and so I would go visit her, and I'm like, no wonder. Because y'all
like,
can
I
see
miss
for
the mountains.
days. I miss the mountains.
trees.
I
Yeah,
miss the
right.
trees. Exactly. Okay, my girl, where can people find you online?
I am at Daniella_ATK on Instagram and TikTok.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.